Is it okay, sir? No, no, it's easy. The screen has been extended. No?
Okay.
You go.
They have already started like. Why are they here?
Nice, unmuted, sir.
Okay, all are there. Arya is ready. From cancer for the first time. This is the only room I haven't used, I think. Can I drag this outside? That's okay, no? Sure. I need it. That's the only thing I appreciate. Again, back to the screen saver.
Okay, no, sir.
TV is not actually, it's just a TV.
So class is until 11:30, no, sir?
It's a published it, around 11:30 or like.
Done. Remove this.
Oh, yes, for this pen.
Done, no?
Done.
I think ATX is also done.
Hello? Camera on.
Yes, today I have a Yes, begin. I think I did. Thursday, no, I think you did. Thursday or Wednesday, I think you did. Thursday, I could not be there. Yesterday, you will have a bit. Friday, actually, future. Sorry. I have to go morning. Yes. Otherwise, they will eat my head.
We can move.
I take a lot of papers. Thank you. All
No problem, no worries.
How are you?
Good, good. How about you?
Good.
Great, great.
Basically, the exams plus many things are coming.
Okay.
So not only exams, I just have work.
Anyway, work is tough.
Yeah.
Where are you working?
EY.
EY, okay. Which department?
Really.
Audit, so the external audit part.
It's
Okay. Who's the partner? Who's the partner?
Chinese.
Sharit. Surname?
Ah.
Surname? Ah, Charita, the female one. Okay. Okay.
Organization of restructure.
Okay. Okay. Abhunish, I know. He used to be my supervising member when I was doing CA.
So you also
Yep. I was in internal audits
leader.
with Brian's team. Brian Guardian.
I feel like I started 7 months ago actually.
Okay. Okay.
That's not allocated for second audit.
Okay. All right. So I was there for around 5+ years.
5 plus years.
Serious?
Taxation department also there.
Yeah, tax we have a separate department. I think it's run by Mr. Suleiman now, I think. It used to be Mr. Hulanga was.
It's going to be different last year now. Whole building was totally different.
Yeah, now it's in Rotunda Gardens, no?
Thousand.
I visited there a couple of days after they shifted. So yeah, they asked me to come again, but I didn't have time to visit. Probably, yeah, by third week of November, maybe. So a bit stuck with these classes and all. So
Yeah.
So
were you waiting for a long time?
yeah, I came around 9.
I came around next.
That's okay, no problem.
So
So it's your first job?
this is actually my third or fourth job. I was
Okay.
working at papers.
Okay, okay. Anyway, hectic job then.
So I did like I think I started working around like when I was after O levels. I started like 4 months after finishing A levels, around like 4 years after 2019. I have like 3.5 years experience only.
Okay, all right. So then you shifted to EY.
Yeah. I was working in internal production.
Okay,
I was in compliance in AMAS. So
okay.
I changed to KPMG. 5 months I was working in the internal team. And many things went down. Again, I had to go to projects there.
Okay. The recording is going out. Let me call it.
I completed on my civil.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Still, I'm like, I didn't have much time either. So I was like,
Itself, can you just drop it? We need to plug his laptop. We don't have a spare plug point. So probably all the videos will be done. Only 2.5 chapters are there. The rest is done. They will upload that balance today. The balance 2.5 within next couple of days. Yeah, to plug his laptop. And you want that one because you like the recording goes out.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
So ATX is the only subject pending for you now.
ATX
AFM. Okay. So you are doing both together this time or only ATX? AFM March. Okay.
I skipped September also, I had to skip it because it's a issue happened. But then even my best, which is also. It's been a long time, it's not around like 2019.
Okay. To be honest, ATX is one of the, not one of the, to be honest, it's the easiest subject in the professional level.
That's really the like, I reached out like.
If you ask me, I would say this is the easiest in professional level because around 70% of the syllabus is coming from tax itself. Only a small part, around 30 to, yeah, around 30% is from the new stuff. And if you take the whole paper, mainly it's about how you present. So now since you're at an audit firm as well, you will have a bit of exposure about the report writing action. I know EY, they are serious about the report writing. So that will be added advantage here. So if you take me, you know my name already. So I have been in the field for around close to 8 years now.
8 years.
So I'm a CEO of Odoc as well. So I am the company and here Odoc. Odoc is the leading telemedicine platform in Sri Lanka. So we are in, it's mainly we are a mobile app. So now let's say you get cough or something, you don't need to physically go and meet a doctor. From the app, you can virtually connect with the doctor. So the doctor will do whatever the examinations that he want to do, and if meds are required, he will send the prescription also through the app. It's a Sri Lankan one, but we have some overseas investors. And there are two subs in US as well. So yeah, it's a new arm for Sri Lanka. Like telemedicine is not something that Sri Lankans prefer. For us, the doctor needs to touch us, no, otherwise we are not getting cured.
Yeah.
That problem is there in Sri Lanka, but probably gradually things are changing now with the younger generation and all. So anyway, you guys get it free because you are students.
Okay.
So EPM students get it free. So those stuff are also there. So apart from that, have been lecturing tax from the beginning of my career. Was never my beloved subject, but I was forced to start tax. I started, but then I became the tax fellow. So now, for my entire lecturing career, tax was the main subject. So I have done other subjects like I have done costing, accounting, law. Now I'm doing law also, auditing. So, but the main pillar for me has always been the tax one. So yeah, we had the tax price last time also in Sri Lanka.
Tax price, yeah, lot of friends also.
Okay.
You need to know
Yes.
next explore.
Okay.
So we are like. Recently finished it, ACCA, that was his last subject.
Okay. All right.
So for me, it's 88 and
You can finish it off by March. So when it comes to this whole ATX story, the most important thing is how you present the answer. This is the most crucial thing. I think you already know the paper structure. We are having two sections, A and B. A will straight away carry 50 marks. B have two questions, each will carry 25. But the fun thing is, out of this 50, 10 will be for ethics and your professional skills. Here also 5 each will be on ethics and professional skills. So that means we have to be very, very keen about the ethical principles as well as the presentation skills that we are going to demonstrate in the paper. So most of your questions will be either to write something called a memo or asking to write a notice. Most of the questions would be one of these two. And in this 50 marks, generally another 5 goes to purely ethics. It's ethical question. Like they might give a small ethical dilemma and ask you how to tackle around that dilemma kind of a situation. So this 20 is the minimum mark that they are allocating to what you call ethics and professional skills. It might be higher than that, but 20 is the minimum. Minimum they are allocating that much of marks for ethics. Sometimes even within this here balance 40, within this 40 also there can be certain questions relevant for your ethics. Because at ACCA, we follow something called 3 E's. This is something pretty important. So 3 E's means 1 is for your experience. We'll start with education. 1 is for your education. Don't mind about my spelling. I'm very good at spelling. Then we have experience. And finally, we have ethics. So ACCA is really serious about the ethical behavior. That's why you have separate module to complete as ethics as well. I know most of y'all are completing the ethics in an unethical way. That's a different story. But for UK, ethics is serious. So if you get convicted for an ethical issue, they are not going to tolerate that. You're out of the ACCA register. You can never be an ACCA fellow if you get caught to an ethical issue. So ethics is very serious for UK fellows. So that's why we have this whole ethical aspect embedded into the all the optional papers in the professional level. So this structure would be same for your AFM, your APM, your AAA, whatever you say. If it is a professional level optional paper, the same structure will be continued. So this was started in 2022, so not very far ago. Up to that, they didn't have any specific number of marks that they allocate for ethics or report writing. Now they are specifically saying after 2022, this is compulsory. So now without ethics, you get marks by only 80, right?
Yeah.
So getting 50 from 100 itself is a bit of a challenge. And trying to get it from 80 is going to be anyway a problematic situation. So without ethics and proper presentation of the answers, we are done. These things are very crucial if we are talking about this professional level optional papers. Because as I always say, we have to be ethical because we are the professionals. So they are very serious about making us being ethical. So the paper will also constitute of that part. Then moving on, like I said, most of your questions will be either to write a memo or to write a notice. And the other problem in ATX is, I'm not saying a problem, but the challenge in ATX is you up to now, you might have done tax, no? So in tax, always one tax was tested at a time, right? If it is corporation tax, it's corporation tax. If it is individual tax, it's individual tax. Now, this time is over. Because now, once you are done with this, you are almost an affiliate. So that means you represent ACCA. When something happens, you will be the guy that the others will reach out to get an advice. So when someone comes and asks an advice from you, you cannot just give an advice based on one particular tax. You will have to know the overall idea. What are the other aspects that are getting impacted as well? Now, when you come to ATX, one tax story is out. You have to check all the possible impacts. Each possible impact we need to test. That means we are talking about all kinds of taxes. We're good? So now it's not about one particular tax or not only about one particular segment of tax. Now it can be anything. Whatever relevant for taxation, everything can be combined together.
Goes for corporates, individuals tax, we have employment income tax. How can we link that?
One, I would say there are two methods that they link. One is they might say, this is now this method is tested in tax as well. So one method is that they might say, okay, you are running a business as a sole proprietor, and now in the middle of the tax year, you are considering what will happen if you convert it into a company. So now both aspects you have to calculate, and that will have a NIC impact also. That is one method. Second method is they might say, second method is very common in ATX. So they might say a director of a company has reached out to your firm, and that person wants some advices about the corporate aspect. And at the latter part, they might say, okay, director is also having a problem like this. So what can be the advice that we are going to give to the director? So all two getting linked together. And to make your life even more, wonderful, in the middle, they might say they are looking at investing in another country. So that country has a different VAT rate. Now, how are we going to tackle with that? Give an advice about that also. So that is ATX. So they can merge any tax together. Not they, even I can merge any tax together in a question. I can do that means definitely they can do that. So ATX, the challenge is to identify all the possible scenarios. That is the biggest problem. Most of the times there would be a group in your question. The good thing is if they are giving a group, they will give you the group structure.
50 marks in section.
50 marks, yes. Generally 50 marks one carries a group. So good thing is if they are testing that, most of the time, 90% of the time, they give the group structure. So you don't need to revamp and draw the group structure. They are so kind. They usually give the structure also. Then from the group, they might pick couple of companies. And you will have to work around those few companies that they are talking about. So this is a basic intro about how does this paper works. But as I said, we have a good pass rate, ATX, because generally ATX is a good subject.
It's interesting on the hand, yeah, but it's also the standard part is moving.
True.
In either way.
It's a
Yes.
interesting subject, I would say, because it's a passable subject. Yes. Last time I completed the syllabus within 2 weeks of one student upon his request, and he scored 61. So within 2 weeks, he gave a massive commitment. I have to appreciate, hats off for his commitment. The fellow gave a massive commitment. So whatever I teach him today, by tomorrow when he comes to the class, he has the short notes, questions are done, study have read, everything is done. So he gave a massive commitment. Within 2 weeks, going for 61 is not an easy task. So it's proven. And he did AFM together with that as well. So 2 subjects together. Still he did 61. That shows that ATX is an easy subject to pass. So don't have any worries about the subject. We have more time than he had. So it's not a challenging thing. Just that we need to exactly understand the mentality of the examiner and try to assume ourselves as a professional. Now, you can't just think as a, like, maybe accounts assistant and answer the questions. Now you have to put yourself into the boots of a decision maker. So that's how the stream in ACCA works. Knowledge level, what we check is your theoretical aspect, how well you can memorize the things. Skills level, we check how is your conceptual knowledge, how good you are at in applying the concepts. Professional level, it's about how you analyze, how you present, and how you communicate the overall picture, which is required from you. So it's like your career. That's how the 3 stages has been defined. So now you are at the peak level of your career where you have to make the decisions. So now you have to give a clear idea about what kind of a picture that we are looking at and what should be the best interest in the client. Remember, from client's perspective, We are only giving solutions and recommendations. We don't make the decision. Client has to make the decision. We only guide him. So when you are answering, don't give specific, let's say, client has to do this. Don't tell like that. Always keep it open-ended. This would be the situation. And these are the recommendations that we can give. Always stick to that. Don't go and make the decision on behalf of the client.
It's concluded.
Yes, you can't conclude. You can give the solutions. It's up to the client to conclude what he or she is going to do. It's not our duty. Very good? Right. I hope now we have brief understanding about what kind of a paper that we are looking at and what we are getting into now. And like I said, this whole ethics is going to be a very crucial thing because as South Asians, we are not that good at ethics. We can proudly say that we are not that ethical fellows. So that's going to be a bit of a risky part for us because you can't make a mistake even in a non-ethical question. Like let's say the question has nothing to do with ethics, but still your answer should be ethical answer. You can't talk about tax evasion methods. You can only talk about proper tax planning methods. You can't deviate from that. If your answer has around at least even 1% of evasion, you are done with that question. So we can't touch any kind of evasion strategy. Whatever solution we describe in the answer should be proper ethical tax planning aspect. It should not have any link to a tax evasion. We're good? But being South Asians, we first thing comes into our mind is okay, how to stop the tax payment. It's not like that. How to legally manage your tax is the concern that we are looking at.
It's that kind of risk management. You can't, don't risk mitigate.
Exactly. We can't zero it out. Within the legal framework, how best can we manage that is going to be our concern in this kind of a paper. Okay? Right. So we will straight away move on to the papers so that we can have an idea about what are we getting into. So this is the theoretical aspect of it. No? Let's see how the practical aspect works. Okay. So we'll start with June 2024 paper. As I said, we are starting with section A. So always read the instructions. You never know when they might do a change in the instructions. So don't ever underestimate the strength of these instructions. Because I had a friend, when we were doing, it was paper written, so not CBE. And it was clearly instructed that you have to use a black pen. But we used to use a blue pen, so the fellow hasn't read the instructions. He has written in a blue pen. Can you imagine his marks? 49.
1 month. Reminds me of it.
Probably because of the pen. And he was lucky enough. Next time also he got 49. Again for tax. So he wanted to give up, but we pushed him. So he sat for the third time. Again 49. Then he took a 1 year break. After that only he was able to finish it off. So clear, I'm not saying they willfully failed him, but they have the right because they clearly gave the instructions. So actually they wanted not to mark the paper. So he apologized and gave a proper apology letter. Then only they marked the paper. Fair enough, because their point was we clearly told you what needs to be done. And how can I expect a professional who don't even read the instructions? Fair enough from their end, which is correct. So that's why I say These instructions, don't take it lightly. You might get an exam docket before, at least 2 days before the exam. Properly go through the exam docket. Yes, the small document kind of a thing that they send you.
That's regarding the bringing and gene mechanism.
Yes. So go through that properly. That also have some exam related instructions. Clearly go through that. In the exam also, properly go through the instructions. You never know when it will change. When I did my first CA paper, up to that time, it was always, we didn't have exact pass mark those days. So depending on how the student scores for each subject, the pass mark was volatile. So generally the pass mark was around 30 to 45. So we were ready for that kind of a mark. Went for the exam, sat for the exam, sat all 5 papers together. And then I got to know the pass mark is 50. Apparently they have mentioned it that in the exam paper. And in the what do you call the admission they sent, apparently they have mentioned that in the admission as well, but none of us read that. Pass rate was 3%. Our fault, not their fault. I was lucky enough. I got through. That's a different story. All 5 subjects I got through. I was one of the lucky.
Their side also there's a issue with the timings, right? They should notify even if we few weeks back.
In their case, admission that time they gave 2 weeks earlier. And exam admission, at the backside of the admission, there were exam instructions. That first point clearly saying 50 is a pass mark. They have done their communication.
So sometimes like doing the right thing can be in an unethical way as well. So it's like it's kind of like unethical or unfair also. Because
But the thing is, they always
some
instruct.
people try, but I feel it's like quite unethical and tricky. Like they just mentioning it in a few pages of paper rather than informing it in a memorable way.
On the other side, the question they asked was, yeah, students, professional students, and we have always clearly communicated to read the admission, and you don't read the admission, how can you justify? That was the question they raised. Fair enough. Because from stage 1 itself, it is communicated properly, always read the admission properly. And this was the first point. And they have bold that point as well. That part they have done. We didn't see that is bold because we never bothered to see the real side of the admission. We never checked the admission sheet. It's our fault. So yeah, I never blame CA for that. Yes, that they did the communication. It's my fault. I didn't read that. The instruction was clear. In bold letters, they have mentioned that. Not just a point. In bold letters, they have mentioned that. So I didn't read. It's my fault. But no one read. Everyone was like me. That's why 97% was the failure rate. Because all of us thought we have to do all 5 papers together as well, because that was the earlier law. But they have changed that also. That was also communicated. They have sent an email on that. We have checked our emails. Again, our fault. 1 month advance before the exam application, they have mentioned that. About the subject wise, you can sit based on subject wise. Communicated. We didn't check. Our fault.
See that it's
Yep. For you, the docket, or you are looking for the paper?
for the section in the past exam papers.
This is from the exam paper.
Yeah, it's okay, access
Yeah.
that.
Wait, I'll come.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
ACCA generally don't change these instructions, but you never know, right? Just from their point, it's correct. They have properly communicated on the paper itself. So let's walk through the instructions first. So we already know section A includes only one question. That is carrying 50 marks and it is compulsory. That also we know. Again, 50 marks in total. You should assume the tax rates and allowances for the tax year 2023-2024 and for the financial year 31st March 2024 will continue to apply for the foreseeable future unless you are instructed otherwise. That means for all the future tax years, if they are asking for future, especially when they are talking about the loss reliefs, can be. We have to assume the current tax rates are going to continue for the future as well. You're good? Right. Calculations and workings need to be made to the nearest power. So you don't need to go for the decimals. You can take for the nearest power. No, questions will be in pounds.
So maybe like control dollars.
No, I mean you don't need to mention the currency technically. Amount is there, that's fine.
Like when you use the accounting.
No, you can use the number format. Then all apportionments should be made to the nearest month. So that means let's say 15th of month we are talking about, go for the end of the month. In your live exam, you should enter your answer for each question in the response of the options provided in that question. Any answer entered into provided for a different question will not be marked. So that means for each question, there would be a spreadsheet or a Word doc or both, which you can use to answer. So example, question 1, whatever the source word, then use that one only. Don't use the question 2's one. Okay? Right. Indicate which requirement each of your responses relate to so that it is clear for the markers. This is something that we don't do. So when you are answering, properly give the question number and the sub-question number. Always make the marker's life easy because when he is happy, you will be happy with the result as well. So always try to make his life easier, then our life will also be easy. Clearly mention what is the question, what is the sub-question number. You good? Right. Show all notes, workings that you want the marker to see within your responses. Remember, any notes, workings, pad or on your workings paper will not be marked. That is clear. Yep. So my recommendation is generally use the sketchpad only if you need to remember something. For that purpose, sketchpad is okay, but don't use it as an alternative for your Excel or Word. That's easy. So sketchpad or your notes use only as reminders. Don't use those as workings. Then you might lose marks. Now we are moving on. This will be the method of your question. So they will give you a full face scenario. Then you will have something like this. On your left side, you will have the balance details. And the requirement, you can see requirement carries 50 marks. And the word processor and the spreadsheet is given. So this is the format of any question in ATX. So starting with, you should assume that today's date is 1st February 2024. You are an ACCA student working for a firm of accountants. Your manager has asked you to carry out some work in relation to both Lark Limited and Lark Limited's Managing Director, Rossetti. So obvious, that means we are talking about both corporate and individual aspect. In addition to some ethical considerations, so that means, okay, our usual traditional ethics question is going to be there, which have been raised by your manager, advice is required in respect of the sale of a wholly owned subsidiary company, the sale by a company of a building and an intangible asset, group registration for the purpose of value-added tax, the VAT implications of the sale of a building, the pricing strategy between the group companies, and gift of shares to a trust and to an individual. The following exhibits available on the left side of the screen provide information relevant to the question. So yeah, we have 4 exhibits: group structure, tax reduction strategies, that is an email from Rossetti, gift of shares in Lark Limited, again an email from Rossetti, work to be carried out, again an email, now this time from your manager. The information should be used to answer the question requirement within your chosen response options. So this is the base. Now, how should we start?
Highlight certain things. So this is what I do this here. Like I see 3 topics area: corporate tax, VAT and capital gain. So I know that data required.
Yes. Most important thing is start by reading the requirement. Don't straight away go to the exhibits that they have given. First part read, then before you move into the exhibits, read the requirement. Because sometimes you don't need to read the exhibits to answer certain theoretical questions as well. For 2 to 3 marks, you can have questions like that as well. So, and when you are reading the exhibits, you will have to read it again if you don't start with the requirement, because you can't memorize everything. You have 4 documents here. Some of those might be very lengthy. So you don't have time to read these 4 again and again. So you have
There are 3 questions, right? Before reading the exhibits, first 15 minutes, I take go through these requirements and skip to the next question, later exhibits and requirements, and come back and start.
no problem. As far as you are making it within the 15 minutes, that's okay. Beyond that, don't waste time for that. Okay? Right. So I'm starting with the requirements there. Okay, we have only 2 requirements. You should assume today's date is 1st February 2024. That means you are talking about a date prior to the end of the tax year. That is also an important point. That means you still have time to do any tax planning activities. It's not after the end of the tax year. You are in a date prior to the end of the tax year. Yeah, generally, as the instructions said, your tax year would be 2023-2024. So you're on 1st February 2024 means you are prior to the end of the tax year. So that clearly says that we have room for tax planning activities.
The tax rate is 31st March, right?
For corporation tax purpose, yes. For individual tax purpose, 5th of April. So respond to the instructions in the email from your manager. That means you have to respond based on Exhibit 4. Note, the split of mark allocation is shown in Exhibit 4. Work to be carried out. Professional marks will be awarded for the demonstration of skills in communication, analysis and evaluation, skepticism, and commercial requirement of your answer. So this 40-10 split we already know. Let's go for Exhibit 4 first, because according to them, that is where they are going to give you the breakup of marks. So I'm starting with Exhibit 4. Okay, here you go. We have all. Okay. Yeah, in the tab, they don't allow us to change the size. Sorry about that. In the app, we can do that. Tab, they are not allowing to do that. Part A, corporate matters. That means we are referring to Exhibit 1 for Part A. Write a memorandum to the Lark Limited Group client file to assist us in preparing for a meeting with Rossetti. So that means whatever you write should be suitable for a meeting. So all the points that you need to discuss should be clearly mentioned therefore, because now it's not to send to the client, it's for your team when you are meeting Rossetti, how to explain to her. When carrying out this work, you should note that the Lark Group claims all possible tax deductions and deferrals in respect of both tangible and intangible assets as soon as possible. That means intangible assets are also going to be a part of this whole exercise. Deferrals means, yeah, extending. Example, ROR. Rollover relief, we are extending. Yeah, good? Right. Then the memorandum should cover the following matters. Sale of SPV Limited, Exhibit 1. You should ignore value added tax when you are carrying out this task. So you can simply forget about that and do the first part of the question. Tax implications of the sale. In respect of option 1, explain the corporation tax implications for Lark Limited of sale of the shares. In respect of option 2, explain the corporation tax implications for STV Limited and the stamp duty land tax implications of a sale of the strict building and calculate the taxable profit assuming from a sale of the S trademark. Keep in mind, there can be different trademarks that they are mentioning. This question is only relevant for trademark S. We are good? Right. Part 2. In order to assist Rossetti in deciding on which option to proceed with, prepare calculations to show which option would generate the greater amount of post-tax proceeds to Lark Limited. That means after the tax, what will give the highest proceeds. In respect of both options, set out any other tax and commercial matters directly relate to this proposed sale, which we should draw to Rossetti's attention. That carries another 7 marks. Sorry? You didn't understand. Right. So now both of they might have given different options. So for the options, you need to figure out other commercial matters. So we spoke about only corporation tax aspect, right? Here, that's what they're asking. So we only spoke about the corporation tax. So do we have any other tax implications also on these options? And any other commercial matters, like maybe how practical it is, how the industry will react to that, or how will it impact the brand? So other commercial factors we can mention there. Okay? Right. Then VAT. You should note that Rossetti intends to include all eligible companies in the group VAT registration and that the UK tax resident companies in the group make standard rated supplies only. However, Rossetti will need to resolve certain administrative issues before the application can be finalized, such that the group registration will not be in place until 1st May 2024. That means on the next year only they are planning to go for the group registration part, next tax year I would say. 1. Explain which of the companies in the Lark Limited group could be included within the VAT registration with LAC Limited on the assumption that the sale of STV Limited is carried out in accordance with option 2. Explain why the sale of business assets would not qualify as a transfer of a going concern, and consequently whether or not STV Limited would be required to charge VAT on the sale of the strict building of VAR Limited. Okay. Then, reducing the corporation tax payable by the group of companies, that is Exhibit 2. Pricing strategy, you need to explain the corporation tax implications of the LAC Limited group of adopting the pricing strategy suggested by Rossetti. So Rossetti might have suggested some pricing strategy. How will it impact the overall group is what we need to say. Strategy suggested by the business advisor. So there might be another business advisor also. I have reviewed this strategy and concluded that it would fall within the general anti-abuse rule. There is something called GA. On first chapter, we touched upon GA, tax admin part. So distinguishing between tax evasion and tax avoidance and state the purpose of GA. Explain why GA would apply to the strategy suggested by Rossetti's business advisor. B. Rossetti gift of ordinary shares in LAC Limited. Write a memorandum for Rossetti's client file. When carrying out this work, you should assume that on 1st May 2024, the market value of 1,500 shares in LAC Limited will be £27,000. Rossetti is a higher rate taxpayer and business asset disposal relief will be available in respect of the gifts. So BADR is coming into the picture. For each of the two proposed gifts, explain whether or not gift holdover relief will be applicable. So GR is also coming into the picture. Calculate Rossetti's CGT, if any, and the recipient CGT, sorry, not the CGT, the base cost of CGT in the shares received. So these are the requirements that we need to battle up. The requirement itself goes for 2 pages. Okay. So this is the challenge in any kind of professional level paper. So you will have a huge set of requirements. Okay. But we need to be very mindful about how are we going to tackle that. Yeah, okay. This is how your paper will look like. So happy or how you feel now?
This is kind of like the requirement is like a
Yep. Because the thing is, here in the requirement itself, they have to explain some stuff. This is what you need to do, that is what you need to do. That problem is there in ATX.
It's kind of like I think SKR, it's quite like it's straightforward.
The structure is different in SBR.
It's here with the tax application.
What are the other sub? No, both optionals are doing right now.
Yeah.
AFM also would be something like this. This is a structure for AFM as well. It's an interesting one, I would say. On the other hand, it's going to be challenging as well because now what we need to grab in our head from the requirement itself is around 2 pages. So now you have a glimpse of what you are going to face in the exam. Yeah, okay. So like I said, this is the group structure. They usually provide this to you. The whole group structure is given. Everything is accessible from here. So most of the details that we discussed on, most of the requirements, I mean, we discussed on this whole work to be carried out part is coming from Exhibit 1, the group structure itself. Clear? Right.
So, talking to other exams.
Mhm.
ATX ACCA December.
Okay.
The question is entirely different.
Question is?
Entirely different. They're like, oh,
Mention.
ATX ACCA December 2024. The style is different. The style is different. No, I mean the question is different. Our idea is the December one, right? I have the June. Lucky ATX, they have not removed the labels. They used to do that.
Tax, they have removed all the pre-marks. So now when I'm doing for the tax students, I share from my screen. And they can only focus on my screen. They can go from their laptops because they have not assigned. If you have assigned earlier, it is still there. If you haven't assigned, then you don't have the access for those free marks. I don't agree with that, but they're doing that. So now you have an idea of what we are looking at.
Yeah.
So a homework, try this question from home. Next class, we will discuss the question. So today, for the balance time, we'll move on to this ethics part and have a quick recap on what are these ethical aspects that we need to be worried about and how to tackle that. Because 20 marks is not simple. So we need to focus on ethics and how to write. So once you try this at home, then next class we will discuss how to write, how to align that, and we will check on their mock answer as well. They have also given an answer. So we'll check with their answer as well on the points that we have highlighted and the points that they have highlighted. For the time being, now let's discuss about the ethical aspect. Because this whole ethics story is going to play a huge role in both ATX and if you are planning to AFM, APM, AAA, whatever, there also it will play a huge role.
Maybe with the part.
Yeah.
It's still 500, right?
So seems like you remember, that's good. Generally, I don't get people who remember the fundamentals. It's a rare situation that you remember that. Okay, so if I take fundamental ethics, what were the 5 fundamental principles? Behavior. Behavior. Right. So what do you mean by integrity? So let's write it down.
Being
First one, integrity. So I would say integrity is about honesty. How straightforward you are and how honest you are. How can they check this in a pair question?
they might miss out certain points. So when they miss out, we have to find that why is this, they are these, certain points. So
On the other hand, might not be checking the integrity of the client sometimes. Sometimes it might be our integrity as well. So these ethics questions can be coming from 2 aspects. Your aspect, that means firm's aspect, and the client's aspect. What you said, they might test from the client's aspect. So that is about whether you can accept this client and deal with the client or not. Can be from your manager's aspect as well. Can be a question saying certain information was there and your manager is saying forget about this information, keep it aside, only focus on the balance. Then question comes to your firm's integrity. Then what should you do? That kind of a question also might come.
okay, so if the manager like in the question is like the manager's requirement doesn't tally the executive to additional information.
Yeah.
But manager's requirement is there, you can't write below on page for the requirement.
Yes. Then the requirement might be whether you can how you are going to deal with this kind of a delivery.
So they don't like the requirement will be lesser.
Yeah, the size of the requirement might be reduced a bit.
So
So that can be another aspect of the question. They have done that. So in those cases, the requirement comes in the requirement column, not on the work to be carried out. Because like you said, work to be carried out is an email from the manager. So he himself will not ask you to assess his integrity, no. Then that will come from the requirement section, the bottom section. Okay. So then what should we do? That is also a possible question. So if it is a client side, now we need to understand how these, I mean, I know all of you know these concepts. You might have studied in AA, you might have studied in SDL. So I know the concepts are there, but in different subjects, how they can test these concepts, what kind of questions that come from these concepts, and how are we going to tackle that is going to be different. That is the part I am going to focus now. In ATX context, what are the possible implications of these 5 principles, and how are we going to tackle with them in the exam? That is what we are focusing now. Not on the meaning of the 5 principles, because I know that you guys know better than me. I started this around 15 years ago. You guys would have studied last month. So probably you might remember better than me. So if they ask you from the client's perspective, let's say you figure out that client is hiding some important information from you. Can be the situation, no? What should be your reaction? Now, let's say you figure out client is hiding certain tax related important information from you or from your manager. That usually happens. So what should be our response for that? Now, again, we are not the auditor. We are the tax consultant. Because that also we need to clearly keep in our mind, because depending on our role in the whole picture, actual gravity of the problem and the impact of the problem and the access to the information can be different. So if you are the auditor, you have all the powers in the world. Worst case, you can say, I'm not going to give opinion. You can give a disclaimer. But tax flow, you don't have any disclaimers or anything, right? Either accept the assignment or reject the assignment. You don't have any other options.
So we can say based on what you have provided.
Again, audit you can do. But tax, you are bound if you give the advice. It's like this, no? So I faced a situation where that was prior to me joining that particular company. They have gotten advice from one of the leading firms, Big Fours. But their interpretation was wrong about the act. And obviously, you know, inland revenue. So they were fighting. So there was a huge penalty as well. So the firm wiped their hands. The auditor can do that because the client will be silent. But if I gave the audit for one firm and tax to the other firm, then will I be quiet as a client? I won't. I might have hid the information. I might simply say, I didn't know that is required. You should have asked. We have to balance between the two stakeholders.
If something goes wrong, you need to try to exercise.
Depends on what kind of a thing is that. So that's what we are trying to figure out now. What should we do? So integrity generally comes at the screening stage itself. Generally, the honesty related problems will not come at the performance level. It will generally can be detected at the stage of accepting the client itself, because you will ask details. No, if the client is not willing to disclose the details, there itself, you know, okay, this fellow integrity we have a question. Then you need to strengthen your screening process. and assess whether you can continue, we can accept this client or not. So integrity generally linked to your screening process, whether to accept or reject. That is from the client's perspective. But I told you there's another perspective, right? What about your manager or your firm? I have faced that. I have faced so many situations like that. There are instances where I mean, I have worked in different firms, not only one. So different firms has different levels of ethics. I'm not saying this firm is not ethical, that firm is ethical, nothing like that. But the level of ethics is different from place to place. I have faced a lot of conflicts like that.
Practically, being on the text, I have experience and it's totally into business.
Agree.
They don't they just want to generate.
Agree, but I can't comment a lot because this is getting live streamed. So yes, I mean, there are very ethical situations as well. So I have faced such situations also. And I have faced a situation that you are telling as well. There were certain instances that because the client is not ethical or he is not falling within certain standards that we want to have, there were situations where we rejected the clients as well. Good thumping amount, but still we rejected. There were partners and managers like that as well. And like you say, other way around is also there. Majority is in the way that you are saying. I agree. That is because, again, ethics, how serious are we? If you are ACCA guy, you have to be careful because trust me, you're out of their member register if you do any ethical misconduct. No chance. No second chances. They simply remove you. Sometimes court might advise you, warn you, and release you, but ACCA is not going to do that. They will remove you from the register. They are strict on ethics. If you have any kind of ethical misconduct, you're out. They don't tolerate ethics. They don't play with ethics. They are very serious about that. Anything else, they might give you excuses, but ethics, they are very strict. You can't pay your subscription, write an email, they might consider. But do an unethical behavior, it might not cost you £1 though. Still you're out. £292, they might excuse you. But that £1, if it is ethics, forget about it, you're done. So that is ACCA because they are very firm about their ethical behavior. I agree with that. Discipline is something a professional should have. As I always say, yes, I am a tax lecturer, but if you want a tax evasion advisors, please don't call me. I am not the one to reach out. I don't advise on that. Tax planning, of course, most welcome. I will help. Not evasion. I'm out of that equation. I'm not there. So that is because of ACCA, because I know how strong they are on their ethical background. And being a counsel guy, I can't do that anyway. So what if your manager or your firm is telling you, okay, these problems are there, but don't touch it, keep it aside, be blind about that, and continue with the rest of the data? Then what should be you do?
We should fulfill their requirement. And we should investigate further and keep it for ourselves when it comes to communicate this to others.
The problem is when it comes to ethics, you don't need to do something unethical. If you hide something unethical, also is a part of being unethical. So you can't hide that. The best option you can do is at least escalate to the next level. Like if the manager is telling, revert to the partner. Or get the advice from your professional body. In your case, ACCA. That would be the exam answer. You're good? And personally, in practice also, I follow that. The places I work, they know. Because that is how I usually work. Some doesn't like me because of that, but you have to be firm on your ethics. That is my personal view because in an interview also they ask that if your boss ask you to do something unethical, what would you do? My boss was also there. I mean, potential boss. He used to be my previous boss as well. I was at him and asked, you know what I do? You experience that, man? So then tell them the answer. Interview. Still, I said the truth. Because I have done that. I have escalated. He is the one who taught me to do that. So he knows that I do it. He is the one who guided. So same thing you have to do here. Escalate to the next level or seek advice from your professional body. You can't just keep a blind eye seeing a problem of integrity. Yeah, okay? Right. So that two aspects can be tested. So now we know what to be done with both aspects. We're good? Right. What's the second one? Objectivity. Great. So what is objectivity? Super. It's about being unbiased. So what are the possible exam scenarios?
Exactly. Exam I would say the index marks. So you should be able to be unbiased and independent. We are providing the.
There can be some situations where client also might come into the picture. Like maybe your wife is working with the client.
The firm is identified.
Okay. Yeah, client and HMRC, correct. So sometimes the objectivity might come either by a conflict of interest. Maybe example, husband and wife running the business. Both of them are in the process of getting divorced, let's say, and you are advising both of them. Obviously, objectivity is out because best interest for one party will be the adverse side of the other party.
So I forgot to ask parents why this friend of capital units. So when they are like selling and selling, when there is selling and selling, we just make the proceeds and receive from an entity, put a charge working. So let's say I'm selling this laptop to you. I'm just mentioning to HMRC, I'm gifting the laptop and getting the gift is it is like but we are paying the say same market amount. But I'm saying I have like you're not it's not even invoice for. I just gifted it to you. So how can like
What is the objective of you gifting to me?
it's actually the purpose is I'm selling it to you. But for HMRC's sake, I'm not invoicing it to reduce the it's kind of like a tax evasion. So it is a tax evasion. So what I'm doing is I'm not invoicing it. I'm saying it's workers like this private individual no. And just gifting it to you, you're getting the same amount, which I give it to a market. So when we sell it, but it's there's a chargeable gain, right? But what we do is that by giving you a gift, there's a relief as well.
The thing is, you gifting to me from HMRC's point of view as good as a sale. So what they will do is they take the market value, deduct whatever the actual cost you incurred on the gap, you will have to pay CGT. Yes, you do have a relief, but in your example, both of us has to agree to go for the gift relief in that case. Plus, now I will be paying tax on the relief that you got if I sell this asset in future. So HMRC is safeguarded. But one way is there that what you suggested can be done. That is where you do the cash transaction and don't disclose. That can happen. But yet again, we are talking about UK, the volume of cash transactions are very limited. So the possibilities of having that is also less. We are good. So compared to other countries, these European countries are covering most of the loopholes, given their digitalization process. So most of the data they have on the digital environment. So they don't use cash that much. It's mostly cashless situation. It's easily traceable there. Even India, very less cash usage. So I went to some lectures, the answers in me. So it's purely cashless. They are using the QR, that's it. $500, they don't have change. I got stuck in hotel. The bill was 150. It's very cheap. Bill was 150. I had only a $500. So they didn't have change because they are used to the QR. That's how they make the payment. So it's cashless. I had to call a student and student came and helped me later on. I gave it back to the student. But that's how the world has moved. Even India, they are very developed now. It's not the India that we see in the movies. It's a completely different level now. I was expecting the movie India, but it was completely different from that.
Hyderabad is the
Sorry?
Hyderabad.
I was in Chennai. Chennai was also good. I mean, not the posh environment, but tech-wise, attitude-wise, people-wise, they have improved a lot. So I had the language issue. So after I informed the students, there was no meal that I went alone. Somehow, whatever the commitments they had, always one student was there with me minimum for all the meals. So that's the caring that they gave. On the last day, half of the class came to the airport with me. None of the baggages I carried, only the laptop I carried, everything else they carried. So discipline wise, people wise, tech wise, they have moved a lot. The posh concept, yes, they are not there. I believe posh is not required as far as your discipline is there. Posh is just a show off. Discipline wise, they were awesome. I have to accept that. It's completely different than what I expected. Still, I am in touch with them because that was marvelous. I never expected that. So there are a lot. So think about Europe then. So cashless guys. So very easily traceable. But yet again, can happen. So it's not mission impossible. Can happen. But there are ways to trace as well, depending on the value of the transaction. If it is a major value, yes, they might try to trace back. So laptop, they might not mind. Even a MacBook is not a big price for them, no. It's a massive price for us. That's a different story. For them, it's a day-to-day thing. You okay? Right. So coming back to objectivity. So again, one side would be your client side. The other side would be HMRC. Third side would be you. You also might have some biasnesses, isn't it? Like I said, husband and wife are the business owners. Both are planning to divorce, and you are the tax planner of both of them. We have a problem, right? You can't independently advise both of them, isn't it? So what should you do in a situation like that?
Like technically, it might be like. So it's like when we are filing income tax, right? So in the income tax, we have individually,
Yeah.
individually you can take care of it, and you should not disclose each of their information.
First and foremost thing, inform both of them. That is the first step. Then get a written consent from them that they are okay. You conduct the professional services for both of them. If that is done, one step is clear. If they consent, then willingly they are accepting the risk. No. So your risk is controlled to a certain level now. Agree? If they don't accept or if they don't give the consent, you have to drop. That means they are not agreeing, you do it for both of them. Always individual, but the thing is now when the divorce factor comes into the picture, there might be situations where they are trying to transfer assets among them. And then you would be the guy who's going to advise. So let's say husband is giving something to wife. So you have to give the best tax advantages method to husband. On the other hand, wife is receiving. So she also has to pay a tax. So she will also consult you. So whatever you tell to her might be conflicting with the advice that you gave to the husband. That is the problem that we have to face. Clear? So first and foremost, get the consent in writing. If the consent is there, then don't individually you go and do both. Assign two different teams. And ensure these teams are working independently. One team is not getting together with the other team and information are not shared. Then yes, to a certain level, you can safeguard yourself and continue the both assignments. Okay, good? So this is the client side. What about your side? Maybe your own wife is the CFO of the client company. Now what should you do?
So it's like self-review, right?
Again, not the audit now. Huh? You have to come out of the audit mentality. We are thinking as a tax professional.
So I basically just fighting my advising my own firm.
No, your wife is not a part of the firm. She is independent, but her company, you are the tax professional. You are the tax advisor. But she is the CFO.
Again, fight.
Yes. We should clearly notify to the client, get the consent, and don't do on your own. Have a separate independent person apart from you who can handle that. Okay. So these are possible questions in the exam. Always keep in mind, this is not audit. So don't write in the auditing perspective. Clear? So you have to stick to the tax perspective now. Ethics, that is where we lose marks. Because most of us are from audit background. Most of us have done this ethics only in AA, or if you have done AAA in AAA, if not only AA. And now out of the blue moon, we are looking at a completely different aspect of the same ethics. Whereas we are used to answer from the audit perspective. We have to keep don't forget audit. You need that. But now we have to come to the tax perspective when we are answering the question. Clear? Now it's like when I'm lecturing tax, I can't teach in this way. So I have to adapt to the tax batch. When I'm doing ATX, I can't do it in the same way that I'm doing for tax. So I have to adapt for the ATX. But that doesn't mean I'm forgetting tax. So tax is there in the back of the head, but I'm not using it right now. Likewise, audit is required. Don't forget whatever you learn. Keep it. But here for ATX, you need to come to the perspective where you assume yourself as a tax professional. A professional tax advisor, not a audit fellow. We're good? Right. So this whole objectivity story is okay. What was the third one?
So in objectivity, okay, so it's like in audit, one perspective or tax perspective. We are in tax perspective, we are advising. Right? When we are advising them, we should be like being alert with the HMRC's guidance. In audit perspective, we just like giving them an opinion or either an advice. But it's in our reputation.
Yeah.
That's right.
On the other hand, in taxation, always if you have a dilemma, you can revert to your professional body. In our case, ACCA. We have that room. Audit, you don't have that room. You have but limited room. You're good? Sorry, what's the third one? Yeah. Professional competency and due care. What does that mean?
It's like
Correct. Simple thing. Can I use the same handout for the next batch?
thanks for March, I think the tax.
Exactly. After March, I can't use the same handout. Why?
Since
Syllabus is changing. Finance Act is changing. So I have to adapt the changes. So that means
it's kind of like if you, I did taxation from like 2023 or 22.
don't worry, not a problem.
Yeah.
Because when I started lecturing, the time that I did with tax paper, I had a time gap of around 6 years. Still I did lecturing. So doing a paper-based thing.
So it is all that the corporate tax have changed. The marginal.
From what you would have learned, we have two major changes. One is now the current year basis is out, tax year basis is coming. Second one, the corporation tax, we had a flat rate, now that is out. Now we are coming for a tier base. Those are the two major changes. Others are just rate changes and all. These are two principal changes. Okay, good? Right. So professional competency and due care is about updating your knowledge. You should have relevant knowledge. Correct? So now that means relevant knowledge in the sense, if the client is asking you about CGT and you are an expert of income tax, can you accept the assignment? You can't. Unless you have someone in the team who is an expert in that area, you can't accept that assignment just because the client is paying. And the other thing, you have to be up to date. Whatever the new trends happening in your field, in our case tax, you need to have proper understanding. If you have that only, you should go for the client. So how can this relate to exam?
So and the first thing you said, you have to be up to date, so you have to ensure that this is relevant for the tax, current tax year. And the other thing is, the rates we use, we have to make sure.
Again, for those stuff, they will give us the rate sheet, no? So nothing to worry too much.
And our, there are costlies.
One question they might tell is, they might say sometimes you are an expert in the banking taxation and you are getting a client from insurance background. Or can you accept that? That would be a possible question. Because these two are specific industries. First of all, you don't have knowledge about the generic tax in that case. Isn't it? You only know specific tax about banking. And now you are looking at another specific tax sector called insurance.
Tax.
Sorry?
You understand how we say tax and insurance and stuff.
Banks, I know. I was in the banking industry as well. So actually I covered almost all the industries. Insurance also I slightly worked. Not a major scale, but I did.
I was in AI. After AI was doing a marketing.
I was in banking, finance, slightly insurance, audit was anyway there. Then now healthcare. Healthcare and tech, because we are a combination of both. So coming back to this one. So in that case, you don't have this required expertise about that particular industry, right? Then can you go and advise a client about taxation in that particular industry? Then you can't accept that. But you can have safeguard. You can hire someone. Or maybe if you have someone in the team, without you doing it, you can assign that team member who has the knowledge about that industry. So that kind of safeguards we can apply. Sure. No worries. That's okay. Right. What's the next one?
Should be
Next one would be this one. Confidentiality.
So some in some papers, the confidentiality is the last one.
Yes, but generally we keep the behavior as the last one. So what is meant by confidentiality?
We should not disclose sensitive information. So that's
Yes, that's a generic idea of confidentiality. Whatever the client specific information, you should not disclose to the others. We have some exception to that. I'll come for that. In practical world, I have faced this confidentiality problem. So have you done CA also? Articles? Okay, so I did articles for CA as well. So I have CA as well. So they used to have these interviews. In one interview, they asked about the names of the clients that I have dealt with. I didn't want to disclose my client names. I felt it's bad. So I used this. I straight away told you yourself has published something called Code of Ethics. And you say we have to protect something called confidentiality. So disclosing that is a breach of confidentiality. So I don't want to disclose. So I use that against them itself. Which is fair enough. They accepted. To be honest, they have asked that question to check that only. They were very happy that I was brave enough to counter because that's what they have wanted actually. That's what they told at the end of the interview. They wanted to check how ethically I will react for the question, which is one way of evaluation. I agree with that.
So how about clients? What you say is from the client perspective.
Mhm.
So how does it apply in that section?
Confidentiality, generally it will come from the institute's point of view, that the firm's point of view only. Because what you can do from the client side is very limited. He is not bound with the confidentiality aspect. You are the one who's bound with that. Confidentiality 90% of the time would be about the firm itself. So maybe they might say, one of your juniors has leaked some information. Now what should you do? That kind of a question can come. So what can you do in a situation like that? First of all, you should inform the client. That is the first step. After that, you should check, is there something you can do to ensure that this does not impact the client? Any method. If there is any method, you need to implement that. Then only you have to go for disciplinary action or whatever against the. Yes, but it's your fault. As a professional, you will have to accept that. Okay? And sometimes they might give you certain exceptions, like it's relating to money laundering. So if that is the case, what are you going to do? Obviously, you will have to report for the money laundering officer, money laundering reporting officer, MLRO. There is no bound for you to not to disclose MLRO. If there is any money laundering related issue, you have to go to MLRO and communicate it to the NCA, National Crime Agency. You get? So this is how this whole confidentiality might come in your exam. Finally, professional behavior. In audit, we had two kinds of impact here, like independence in appearance, independence in nature. So for us, that's not the case. How do you professionally act with your client? So there can be limitations for that. Generally, this is not tested that much. These four concepts can be tested heavily. This one, generally, they don't go that depth.
Professional behavior, when we use the skills, professional skills, again, the communication is part of professional. The
Communication would be a skill mainly. So there can be, but so far they have not gone to that extent where they link these two together. So can be a possibility, but in general terms, for exam purpose, the tendency of checking will be higher for the first four concepts. Mainly confidentiality and integrity. These two are highly tested areas. So with this, we cover minimum 5 marks in your exam. Minimum 5 marks will be there in each paper around these concepts. So now we are thorough with that, I hope. How to deal with that, what kind of questions can come, and how are we going to react for that? Any questions on these ethical aspects up to now? We are good. Right. Then any areas that you would like to get clarified in the syllabus or whatever? Because question I want you to try first.
This is it is paid by. Capital tax, there are like a lot of releasing. So capital tax, gain tax, I was referring to it. The shares and stuff is kind of, it's got misconstrued.
The EIS, SEIS, those areas.
Both biggies also. They are like lot of biggies, like the proportionality.
Okay.
So those things are kind of like mixed up with it. I understood the certain things based on market value, proportionate the cost, but the steps, it's kind of like.
Oh, confusing kind of. Okay. That again, the easiest thing is this question itself has a share related question.
Yes, so it's the other one is in corporate terms, I'm not aware with the new,
Marginally.
the margin relief, I'm not very thorough with.
We can just do a small recap on that now there.
Yeah.
So earlier, up to Finance Act 2022, for corporation tax, we had one rate. Last 2 years, it was 19%. Now we have splitted this into two with Finance Act 2023. So the split is we have something called small profit rate and we have the main rate.
This is basically like a basic
No, not like that. So here, if you are falling within the small profit rate, your entire profit will be taxed at 19%. If you are falling within the main rate, your entire profit will be taxed at 25%. So it's not a progressive method by sake. Kind of a progressive, but not typical progressive where up to a certain level only one rate, then only the excess is getting taxed at another rate, not like that. It's not a typical progressive, but yes, it has some criteria of progressive. So to fall to the small profit rate, your augmented profit should be 50,000 or less. Remember, you are not talking about the taxable profit. We are talking about the augmented profit. Augmented profit means your total taxable profit plus non-group dividend. That means, let's say, in a part of a group, whatever the dividends you are getting out of your group, we are adding that to your TTP to derive to your augmented profit. Okay? Because dividend is exempted for corporation tax purpose.
But when we think of research, it's in the financial aspect, yeah, the solution of the integral dividend is accepted in not like.
Yeah. For financial reporting purpose, we eliminate that. Correct.
The integral is there.
So here what will happen is your TTP does not include any dividend at all. Because for tax purpose, dividend is exempted from corporation tax. But the group ones, like you said, even in financial accounting, we are eliminating. So we are taking only the outside ones, non-group ones. We are just adding it to derive a new figure called augmented profit. We are good? Right. Then for main rate, we are talking about your AP, which is more than 250,000 pounds. Clear? But now, what if you are falling between these two? 50,000 and 250,000.
So it should be equal to one. So if it is equal to 250,000, it's 25.
If it is more than 250,000, it's 25%. If it is less than or equal to 50,000, it is 19%. Now the problem is, if it is falling in the middle, what should we do? Then something called marginal relief comes to the picture. Okay? So what are we going to do is, we take your TTP, some amount here, then we take your main rate, that is 25%. This will have some tax, no? This is the tax. From this we deduct relief, that is known as the marginal relief. Once you deduct this one, this is your corporation tax payable. How to compute marginal relief is the next question. How to compute this amount? For that, there's a separate formula.
Can you explain?
Sort of proportioning out. So what we do is we take your augmented profit minus your upper rate. Upper rate is generally 250,000. This one. This is the upper rate. Then this we multiply by the standard fraction. Standard fraction is this one. This will be given to you in your tax rate tables as well.
Why? So,
That's a standard. Like the tax rate fix, that is kind of a standard. Then we have the proportion between your taxable total profits and your augmented profit. So your TTP divided by your AP. This is the formula that we will have to use to figure out your marginal relief. Whatever comes from here, we deduct it from here.
So it's augmented profit, memorize this here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the 3/4 augmented.
That will be given in the tax rate tables.
Deriving.
This part would be there in the rate table. So don't worry about that. We call it as a standard fraction, but luckily it is there in the rate tables. So nothing to worry there.
So margin of different material means.
So the thing is, now why we have two different rates is to give some benefit for the lower profit earners, no. But similar to what we did for personal allowance in tax. After you reach a certain level, you don't deserve that full benefit. So we are gradually trying to reduce the benefit. We can't just say, okay, beyond this, we are charging 25. So to give some additional benefit only, we are giving this marginal relief. Gradually to reduce the impact of, rather than exposing you at a stretch to a higher rate, we are trying to gradually bring it to that level.
Okay, so if there's a previously if there's a loss. So is that effective on profit and arresting can the marginal?
If you have a loss, anyway, you are not falling in this category for this year, no. Yeah.
Let's say previous year loss. This year there's a taxable profit of 6,000 loss. The second get rise.
Then the thing is, in corporation tax, you are not claiming any loss against TTP. You are claiming all your losses against your total profit, isn't it? Prior to QCD. So when you are deriving at TTP, whatever the loss that you are going to claim is already claimed.
Thanks.
So augmented profit is also derived from your TTP, which is already adjusted for any kind of a loss claim. So loss claims are already adjusted when you derive on these numbers. We're good?
So in here there is nothing. Indexation allowance is there.
That is for capital gains.
It's
Sorry?
capital gains is A here.
Individual AEA, that is annual exempt amount.
But
Corporates, IA, indexation allowance.
yeah, corporates, do they have it still now?
Indexation allowance, whatever you had those days, the same principle is there. So after indexation allowance, only you are deriving at the chargeable gain. That we add to your profits.
So here after AP we can deduct the indexation allowance after.
No. Here itself it is adjusted. So when you're deriving your total profit, this has your trading profit, your property, your chargeable gains, your interest, and any other miscellaneous. So TP includes all these. So whatever indexation allowance you have is already adjusted in your CG. So final product would be TP. The TP and the TTP. The difference between these two would be your QCD, qualifying charitable donations. That's the only gap between TP and TTP. We're good. So all the things that we need to adjust is adjusted here itself. We're okay? Right. So marginal relief is also clear. But the next step is
After multiplying by 25%, after we deducting from the tax.
yeah, we are deducted from the tax itself. So we apply 25% as the main rate. From that, we deduct the marginal relief.
So the last final. Profit after this. Corporate tax.
This one.
CTP,
That is the corporate tax payable.
corporate tax paid. I.
That's the amount of tax that you need to pay. We're good? Right. But it's not as straightforward as it seems. There are two other situations where your limits might change. One is if your accounting period is less than 12 months. That 50,000 and 250,000 is for a period of 12 months. So if your accounting period is less than 12 months, you need to time apportion the limits. Let's say accounting period is 6 months, then 50,000 becomes 25,000, 250,000 becomes 125,000. We're good?
When we take the after rate, we take total taxable profit. Multiply by 25% into 6 or 23% into so.
Technically, that is whether we are using this rate or this rate.
No, I'm saying it's total taxable profit is and the 3x.
Hmm.
Multiplied by 25% into 6 over 12.
No, after you derive at this rate, you don't need to time apportion. What we are time apportioning is these two, this one and this one, to figure out which rate are we going to use. So the two limits we are time apportioning. Are we okay? So if it is 6 months, this will become 25K. This will become 125K. So in that case, if your augmented profit is less than 25K or equal for that, you are going for 19. If it is beyond 125K, you are going for 25, the main rate. If it is falling between 25 to 125, the marginal relief is coming to the picture. Very good? Right. Second scenario is groups. In groups, by the number of companies, you need to split. If it is 3 companies, divide by 3. The limit is splitted across all the companies. So now your limit is going to reduce. If it is a group of companies.
So, parent company, so is that what?
Yes, correct. Because group we consider as 1. So the limits we are splitting across the group of companies. 3 companies split into 3. 4 companies split into 4. 5, 5, likewise.
So, how the subsidiary will come?
Same. For tax, we don't mind whether it's a parent or subsidiary. Group, all are treated in the same way.
So. It's the extra by that can be a.
For the small company, yes. Correct. Because for tax purpose, we don't consider the scale. For us, if it is a group, it's a group. Or else they can opt by not being considered as a group. They can opt for that. Group taxation is not compulsory, no. If you want, you can keep one subsidiary out of the group. Okay. I hope your concerns about the new corporation tax rates are sorted now. Great.
Yeah. Tax. Other thing is, the tax filing and stuff, I think. There are the.
Tax admin part. Okay.
Administration, but I don't know, it's okay, it has a lot of. I just went to click, but if there are exceptions that I think the period, the filing details and all.
The good thing is, you have the Kaplan book, Kaplan revision kit. Okay, so I will share you the deadlines from the Kaplan. You can use that. And the other thing is, tax admin is not one of the strong areas that we are checking in ATX.
Yeah,
That
but
was
saw the questioning there.
not,
That's why I was like.
not to the, I mean,
It's
in,
like, 7 marks without.
yeah, in skills level, you have around 20 marks from tax admin. In ATX, the volume of tax admin is less compared to the skills level. But yes, there can be questions. So easiest way is it's just about memorizing. No? That is the only area in tax that I can confidently say if you memorize, you're good to go. All the other areas, there are concepts. So if you don't know the concept, doesn't matter, you have the best memory in the world, you are going to fail the exam. But admin is the only area that I can 100% confidently say, memorize, you're good to go. So just remind me if you don't get it by Monday. I will get the PDF of the Kaplan one and share with you the tax rate. The tax rate in the sense the admin deadlines. Then you should be okay with that.
There are like a shop. ID, 7.
Kaplan short note for tax admin there is. Other areas I have to check with their materials because I generally use Study Hub and my own materials.
So, and but I don't think at the end of before the exam, I just go to the advanced level and once.
Hmm.
So can't go through this.
Let me see. Should have some material.
So if we can memorize my, that time if I forget something, then.
Because the thing is, copyright problems are also there. No? So there are some free materials. So if the short note is there in their free material list, yes, you should be able to share that. So let me have a check on that with the management. If it is there, I mean, they have gave me the resources, but I don't know whether this is in the free section or the paid section. If it is free section, no issue. I can share with you, then no problem with copyright. If it is paid section, you have to get an approval. Otherwise, this whole copyright thing comes into the picture again, the ethical story. So that is the issue, but as far as I know, it is on the free section, so shouldn't be a problem. They have a lot of materials, to be honest, these Kaplan fellows. A massive folder of materials. Only question is, I don't know what is free and what is paid because they give it to me, the institute. So I'll check with the management and confirm you. If it is from the free section, definitely I'll share it. Right. Any other areas which we need to address?
That's, so how do the content integrate taxing? Taxation.
Mostly they are focusing on BPR and APR. Because for them, the rest they have already tested in the taxation one. No? So advanced taxation, their main focus would be around BPR and APR. But to be honest, inheritance taxes are those questions are not that tough. Generally, inheritance tax questions are surface level. Even in taxation, that is the case. There are a lot of hard areas that they can test in inheritance, but generally they go on the surface level questions for inheritance. The hard part they usually keep for CGT and corporation tax because they are merging those two together. Inheritance VAT, both they generally touch the surfaces. Inheritance wise, mainly APR and BPR.
They used to go with the administration part.
That admin is not hard. Only few things that we need to remember. That is the penalties. That is again covered in income tax as well. No specific penalties are coming in. The other thing is the errors. If you find errors, what you are going to do? That the main thing that they are usually testing is sale of capital assets. That was not tested in tax. No, skills level, we are not testing that. We said it's the same rate that we are applying, and that's what we do in the skills level. In ATX, if you are selling a building, then depending on the date you have purchased, there are certain criteria we need to be vigilant about. That part they are focusing a bit. If you take this question, that's also having that part. It's a common area that they check in VAT. You have a chapter called further aspects of VAT. That is the section that they are checking from the VAT, not the other chapter. So most of the areas, whatever newly got added to ATX are tested a bit. So we'll do a question on that area as well. Then you will be fine with that also. For that, first of all, I need to give you the recording. By Monday or Tuesday, you will get that.
Yeah, so that might take time.
Not really. Now I have to do only 2.5 chapters. Rest, all the others are done.
Okay, yeah, it's what. So now recordings won't.
Now we have assigned a separate person. So his job is as soon as I'm done. My job is to focus purely on the recording part. And as soon as I'm done, he does the edits and try to put it on the same day on the portal.
Yeah, the thing is, personally, I mean, I might need a plan of like, actually plan for.
Right. So I'll give you a small plan by Monday.
Should.
I'll give you a proper plan what we need to focus on. Because again, like I said, this is not a hard paper. If we strategically focus this one, not a hard paper at all, we can easily score beyond 60. Not a big problem. Not 50. I'm not talking about 50. If we strategically target this, 60 is not a hard target. And but the thing is, in Sri Lanka, less number of people are doing this. So even the price is an achievable target. Last time price went for 70. My student was the second highest in Sri Lanka. 70 guy was a self-study fellow. My guy, he did within 2 weeks. So for you also, to be honest, you can give a try for the price even. Because 70 is not a hard mark. It's achievable one compared to tax, where 96 went for the third place.
Yeah, that's like 80. So 9240, correct?
92 for it, that's a well price. She scored 96 for tax also. That was third place. Yeah.
So first
100.
who was
Indian guy.
Yeah.
100 marks. That's why I always say ACCA is professional. So they don't bother to give the full marks even if your answer is correct. They proved that by giving 100 marks for tax. Earlier they gave some other paper also 100 marks. This is not the first time.
Those days I was doing for ACCA for a long time. I was
Now it's common. This time also I had an 85 for tax.
80s I have.
Now it's a common thing. I mean, I was in India when she texted the marks. One student called me at around 4 a.m. That's when the results is released. No? So I woke up at that time anyway. After that call, I saw she has also a message. So it was 96. I zoomed it and I called her. I said, are you sure? Yes, I'm pretty sure you zoomed it. I also did. It shows 96. And all of us were planning that it would be a world prize and all, but it went for third place because we had 100 and a 98 on top of that. So it's a very competitive market for skills level, but ATX, very less competition. 70 would be easier Sri Lankan price. Not a problem at all. I need to produce one. Generally in Sri Lanka, the ATX volumes are less compared to other
The
subjects.
reason is because of the ATX charter the taxation laws are.
No, the thing is, ATX, you have lecturers.
Yeah, the dividend pictures also. But there was a good sir.
Long time back, Prakita.
Raj.
That was when we were studying. Raj sir was when we were studying.
So was the entire last year.
Around 3 years ago, he's not lecturing now. He was my lecturer also. He is awesome. He is awesome. But that was during our time. You can't mess with him, guys. He has his experience is more than my age. He's a marvelous fellow. He's my lecturer for tax as well.
So that's why my friend who got the Nobel Prize, he was doing uh, F6.
Hmm.
Knots. So he was saying knots just
He was the best in the market. Then Rakita took over. From Rakita, I took over. So right now, we don't have people for ATX.
Yeah, so. And the other practical thing is it's the UK. taxation.
That's not a big problem. Because majority, you want to finish the exam. No? This is a shortcut to finish the exam.
Yeah.
You don't need 6 months to study ATX. 3 months is more than good enough if you spend 2 hours per day.
So,
If you can give a hard work, 1 month or 3 weeks is more than enough. I had done within 2 weeks, I had done within 1 month, so it's achievable. Not a big task. But student support also should be there. It's not purely lecture, it's a 50-50 attempt. So student also study, we also deliver, it's not a big deal. ATX is a shortcut to complete your ACCA. This is the easiest.
that my favorite was like I'm trying to like keep numbers and costing this. So I was able to like AFA was very interesting for me. And the other thing is performance management, it's really tough, but it's one of my favorite subjects.
The other class is APA. Vishal says that.
So that's it. So performance management is easy. I really love to do performance management. Even I really love to do APM. But with the high interest rate also, like I ATX can be
This is the easiest part. Professional level,
I can learn some APM, but the high interest rate is
this is the easiest to finish in the professional level. I can easily say that because I have done that. Within 2 weeks, I completed and the fellow got through. Within 1 month, I have done. The fellow got through, so it's proven. This can be done, not a hard thing. Just that your support, I mean, whatever the student support is there, this is an easily achievable target. ATX is not hard. 2 papers properly, more than enough. On your own practice 2 papers, then we discuss in the class, it's more than good enough.
basically what for studies it's like this. I have my own failures also. But this is what I do. I just go through the lecture records. This is what my it's kind of like taxation got a long delay.
Yes. 1,200 pages is the book.
No, not the pages. I was just pure record. I was like trying to find.
Tax also you did with my recordings. Tax also you did with my recordings, you know, right? ATX, sorry. Okay.
September, I was speaking with the institute, but my plan was, by September, I was trying to do the exam. My plan was to do the exam in September and give it a try. So after I had double two talks, where I should do it on September, then I goes on December and finish the ACC. So later on, I just thought like, there are certain things.
Give 1 minute.
After that, what will you consider election of planning from time? Very. One. Okay. Okay, one first. Unfortunately, I was having for my brothers against.
No worries. You guys are here, no? Part-time fellows will be there by 1:30.
My brother.
Your brother's engagement, okay. Elder or younger?
So, their right side is going to our house. So I don't
Okay.
know.
Good luck. Wedding is a different story. Not married yet, right? You should get married also. You should get married also. First finish ACC, then get married.
I have used to like traveling abroad.
Okay.
Before the
Then anyway, ATX will be helpful for you because tax bags are getting paid very well.
European regions are these days, but my backup plan is like Australia.
Hmm.
See,
But the thing is, with ACCA and ATX, UK would be a bit of a lucrative market for you. ATX, they have a demand.
That's it.
Tax baggers are well recognized in UK.
Well,
Again, ethical. They are not into evasion like us. I'm not saying they are very, very, very ethical, but compared to us, they are not that into evasion. Because there are a lot of ways that you can plan. Why you need to evade when there are ways to plan properly?
Yeah.
Tax, there are a lot of methods to plan. The thing is, we don't know that, so we try evade. Sorry?
Taxation scandals.
In Sri Lanka, we have
Scandals, like, not scandals, like,
not to that level. That is Sri Lanka. Being a South Asian country, we have the largest wet fruit in South Asia, in Asia. And Asia represents India, China, Russia, economies like that also.
yeah,
So we surpass them.
and the filing is still shipping.
True. If you take practical taxes, that is the one I hate. If you take exam, that is the one I love because it's very easy.
When it comes to the work, some people.
That is because we are making it hard with these schedules and all. You should automate the schedules. It should automatically come from your accounting system. That is why we are finding it hard. Sri Lanka is manual. That is the problem. If you automate that directly with your accounting system, it's not a big deal.
That's.
Our problem is we do it manually.
We, for that, filing also we have a time. We take this time, or else we have to charge payment. It's penalty.
Yeah, true.
That's it.
That is the problem in our digitalization issues. And in their case, those facilities are there. So not a problem for them. Right. So we'll stop at this point for today. Next day, can we start at around 8:30?
Sure, 8:30 or say like, I'm not sure whether
Okay.
it's supposed to be at 9 today. The reason is I just thought there will be big platinum partners. I waited at right now.
Oh, that's
Call me.
okay.
So
Okay.
again, the person came in, so it got me 20 minutes late.
No worries. So at 8:30 we'll do because once we start papers, we might need more time.
More time.
So
Physical is okay for you guys.
I prefer physical always.
Okay with me.
Obviously, because anyway afternoon I have another class.
Even now.
So not a problem at all. Anyway, I prefer physical compared to online. We have the one-to-one interaction in physical.
For me, yeah, one interaction. The other thing is online it was for people.
True. I always prefer the physical class.
Online, the way how I'm giving the energy now, I don't give the energy at all.
I know that. I have seen my wife how she studies. I came here thanks to her.
And the other thing is, everything online, they just, our notes, you know, like we just think something. We get, because I think our notes will change it.
Focus is not there.
Focus is there.
So we stick to physical. I'm more than happy to conduct physically. Then I also know exactly where we stand.
I would say like, oh, it's like this, I was only person.
That's not a problem at all.
Sometimes you like each by day. So delay your time.
Not an issue at all because last time, all 2 weeks, all 5 days, I came only for one student. Not a problem at all. Because I feel the physical one is better because then I can check your answer live. Not like you're sending something, no. Here I can live check your answer, what you have written, how you have addressed, what is the structure you are using. It's very easy for me as well to guide then what needs to be done, what are the improvements we need. It's pretty easy to do. And when we do questions here, I can easily monitor the time that you spend to answer the question as well. It's very easy for me to come to a judgment, what are the areas we need to touch up before the exam compared to online one. Exactly. It's pretty easy for both of us, I would say. For you also, you can directly raise the question. I'm pretty sure in online, you will not raise questions. But when you're physically here, whatever you are not clear, you will also raise the question easily. So always I prefer physical. So we'll catch up around 8:30 next week.
Sure.
Great. See you then.
Have a nice weekend.
Same to you.